Hey guys, so today we are going to be covering notes of area of rectangles, squares, and parallelograms. So to start with, we have to understand that area is the amount of square units needed to cover a figure. So how many square units are needed to cover a figure? You have to use a formula, and your answer is always going to be squared. So a way to remember that your answer will always be squared whenever you are completing these, you can think of the fact that these are going to be two-dimensional shapes, so therefore it should have a 2 at the end because you're going to be doing two-dimensional shapes. So let's first go ahead and let's talk about the shape of number 1. So you can see that we have 5 and 8/10 and 4 and 2/10, which means although while yes, this might look like a square, the measurements tell us that it's not a square. So this would be a rectangle. Okay, so this is a rectangle. And the formula we're going to be using for rectangles, squares, and parallelograms, all of them are going to be area equals base times height. So area equals base times height. Okay, so you might see it with the dot, you might not. Typically, the way that we will write it, however, would be area equals BH. You guys probably know this as area equals length times width. Okay, either one's perfectly fine. You will start seeing base times height more. So you will start seeing base times height more. I'm going to go ahead and just put this up here. Base times height or area equals length times width. Okay? All right, so now we're going to substitute for our formula. So we're finding the area, so we can't put area is. The base is 5 and 8/10 multiplied by the height of 4 and 2/10. Okay, now we are able to use calculators, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it into our calculator. So we have 5.8 times 4.2. So that's going to give us 24. Let me back it up just a second. Sorry, guys. The area, A equals 24 and 36 hundredths. Okay, so 24 and 36 hundredths. And we need to go back and use our dimensions that we already had. So we would have inches, don't forget squared. So inches squared. And also, guys, you can think of how many things would you just multiply together? 2. We have 2 here. It's a two-dimensional shape. Just a good way to remember that. All right, and move the calculator out of the way. All right, so this shape, we have 4/7. Now notice how it only tells us one side. What do we think that means this side is? 4/7 as well. So that means that this is going to be all the same size, which means this is going to be a square. Okay. All right, we know the formula is area equals base times height. So we would do area equals 4/7 times 4/7. Okay. All right, guys. So we know that we would be able to multiply straight across. So we would do 4/7 times 4/7. So that would give us 16 and 49. So our area equals 1649 centimeters squared. All right, remember we just multiplied straight across. We couldn't simplify this at all because 4, one thing that goes into 16 is 1, 4, and 16, and 49 is obviously just 1, 49, and 7s. All right, moving along to number 3. Okay, so number 3, we can clearly see that we have some slants right here. So remember, this would be a parallelogram. This would be our parallelogram. Okay, guys, guess what? We get to use the exact same formula. Area equals base times height. Okay, so we'll substitute in now. As you see, guys, we have a lot of measurements here, but we only need certain ones. So right here we have our base, and notice that the other one would be parallel. You want to find the one that would be the right angle. The one with the right angle will actually give us the height. This is like the staircase, right? So we have our staircase. Oh, I'm trying to make it so y'all can see it. the slope of the staircase does not tell me how high up it goes to the ceiling, right? So think about like a room, okay? So as tall up as it goes, like how many feet to the ceiling, it's not the same thing as how many stairs it'll take you to get to the top. So you're going to want to use this guy right here. So we have area equals 12 times 8.4, and I'm actually going to change this to parentheses so we don't get confused. Okay, so we can use our calculator here. So we have 12 times 8.4, so 100.8. So my area equals 108 tenths centimeters squared. Okay. All right, so for number 4, guys, once again, you can clearly see we have a parallelogram. Okay, so we're going to use area equals base times height. All right, so my area equals 8 2/3 times, all right, guys, so should we use the number of stairs it takes us to get to the top, or from the floor to the ceiling? We want to use the floor to the ceiling, and that's where it makes our right angle. So times 5 1/4. All right, now, remember with fractions, in order for us to multiply, we need to make these improper first. So I'm just going to come up here and work this out. So we have 8 2/3 times 5 1/4. Okay, so we would do 8 times 3, which is 24, plus 2 is 26 over 3, times 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1, 21 over 4. All right, now, fortunately, we are able to cross simplify. So we'll use our 3 first. 3 goes into 21 7 times. 3 goes into 3 1 time. I can divide both these by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 26 divided by 2 is 13. Remember, guys, we're just simplifying before we solve. It just makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so since we can use the calculator, let's go ahead and let's put this in. We have 13 times 7, and that'll give us 91. Let's double check that. 13 times 7. Good. Yep, that's correct. And we know 1 times 2. 1 times 2. Okay. All right. So you can leave it as 91/2 inches squared. But remember, guys, think about this. If you go to Home Depot, is that really going to be how you're going to leave it? No. So 91 divided by 2. It goes into it, let's see, let's put or, goes into it 45 times, and we're left with 1/2 inches squared. So this would be the preferred answer, 45.5, but technically it's not incorrect, but I would definitely go back and change that. All right, so number 5, we have obviously a rectangle. We can tell that our measurements are not the same. So our rectangle formula, once again, is area equals base times height. Remember, you do have to write it every single time that you solve. Yes, you may think it's annoying. Trust us, a lot of times you'll write it and you won't even use the right one. All right, so substitute in, we need A equals, all right, guys, so if up here is 10.5 or 10 5/10, we know that down here is, so our base is 10 5/10 times our height of 5.1, 5 1/10. And guys, one way you can always find the height, notice that this makes a right angle. Wherever it makes a right angle, you're always going to be able to find your height. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's put this into our calculator. We have 10 5/10 times 5.1. So we have area equals 53 55 meters squared. Just to be on the safe side, I am going to type this in one more time. 5 times. Yep, we're good. Okay. All right. Number 6, we have a parallelogram. So we're going to use area equals base times height. Our area equals a base, we can clearly see is 10 5/10 times, all right, guys, so staircase or from floor to ceiling, the heights from floor to ceiling, so 6 and 4/10. Okay? All right. So we have times 6 area equals, I'm going to plug this back in one more time just to make sure. 67 2/10 meters squared. Let's make sure we type that in correctly. 10.5 times 6.4. Yep. All right, so 67 2/10 meters squared. Guys, always remember, plug it in a couple of times just to be on the safe side. All right, and then this last one, we've got some fractions, so we don't need our calculator for that. All right, so we can clearly see it only gives us one measurement, which means that this is obviously a square. The formula would be area equals base times height. So area equals, since it only gives us one, we know we have 7/8 times 7/8. Okay, I will go ahead and I'll just kind of come down here to solve this so it stays nice and neat. 7/8 times 7/8. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. So our area is 49 and 64 inches square.